Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into a massive, blaring red flag raised by the legendary billionaire investor and historian Ray Dalio. He's actually arguing that the United States has just crossed a macroeconomic point of no return. So today we are unpacking the raw data, looking at the historical cycles repeating right in front of us, and figuring out what this actually means for your portfolio.
Okay, let's dive right into our roadmap for today. First, the point of no return. Second, Dalio's 6 economic cycles. Third, 5 types of global conflict. Fourth, 3 paths forward. And finally, number 5, preparing your portfolio.
All right, starting us off with Section 1, the point of no return, the shocking numbers.
$38.7 trillion. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. To put that massive kind of abstract number into perspective, if you had spent $1 million every single day since the year 1 AD, you wouldn't even be close to a single trillion. Yet this is the foundational number driving the whole global macroeconomic shift we're analyzing today.
Now let's look at the speed of this thing. $8 billion. That is roughly how much our national debt expands every single day. Every single day. It's literally the equivalent of buying a brand new, fully equipped nuclear aircraft carrier every 24 hours purely in accumulated interest and deficit spending. It's just wild.
But wait, here is the number that truly changes the math. $1 trillion. For the very first time in history, our annual interest payments alone have crossed a staggering $1 trillion. And remember, we aren't even paying down the principal here. We are literally just keeping the lights on for what we already owe.
And this brilliantly illustrates the real issue. Notice how those annual interest payments now completely eclipse the entire U.S. national defense budget. Dalio points out that when deficits hit these kinds of extremes, governments, well, they rarely step up and slash spending. Instead, they usually just print more money to cover the gap. And as you probably know, that inevitably devalues the currency and just fuels massive inflation.
Moving on to Section 2, Dalio's 6 economic cycles, the historical pattern.
So Dalio's historical cycles follow this really distinct, predictable path. Think of it like a giant clock. A new world order brings massive growth, peaking when the triumphant nation's currency becomes the global reserve. But you know how it goes? That exact prosperity breeds complacency. Debt skyrockets, and the wealth gap widens. Then, severe financial imbalances surge as that debt rapidly outpaces income, which triggers domestic disorder and challenges from rising rival powers. In Dalio's stark warning to us, he thinks we are stepping directly into Phase 6, a full system reset, where the old economic machinery simply stops functioning.
Which brings us to Section 3, 5 types of global conflict, beyond the battlefield.
Now, this shift to a new system doesn't just jump straight to military war. It actually escalates through a specific, non-military sequence first. First up, trade wars. Think tariffs and export controls. Second, technology wars. We're seeing this right now with the aggressive global race to monopolize AI and semiconductor chips, right? Third are capital wars, where financial sanctions essentially weaponize the US dollar. Fourth, geopolitical wars over vital alliances and global supply routes. Historically, actual military conflict is only the 5th and final stage. The sober realization here is that we are actively watching the first 4 play out globally right in front of us today.
So, what does this all mean for our future? Let's look at Section 4, 3 paths forward. How do we fix this?
The crucial point is, we essentially face a choice between 2 highly difficult realities right now. Path 1 is a disorderly decline. That means simply ignoring the math until a default or a massive, rapid currency devaluation basically forces our hand. Path 2 is a managed decline. This requires what's known as the 3% solution, a totally punishing combination of severe spending cuts mixed with heavy tax increases to slowly bleed the debt down. Neither sounds great, right?
But then there is Path 3, the technological wildcard, the AI reset. This is the highly optimistic scenario where our silicon saviors actually rescue the math. Basically, if AI can boost human productivity 5 to 10 times, it generates unprecedented economic abundance. This explosion of wealth could theoretically outpace our crushing debt, upgrading the entire global standard of living just before the macro clock runs out.
Okay, so what does this actually mean for your money? Let's get into Section 5, preparing your portfolio, actionable steps.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is translating that high-level macro theory into everyday practice. Dalio's core philosophy is basically to own assets that the government cannot easily print into oblivion. Consider this framework: gold, to protect your historical purchasing power during a crisis. The S&P 500, so you can stay dollar-cost averaged into highly productive businesses. A hard fixed supply asset like a Bitcoin ETF. And finally, municipal bonds, to keep a tax-free war chest of dry powder, so you're ready to buy the dip during major market corrections.
As Dalio famously reminds us, the biggest risk here isn't a cycle itself. It's assuming that nothing ever changes and being caught completely unprepared. Look, these massive macroeconomic shifts, they take decades to fully play out. But the investors who survive and thrive are always the people who stay agile, keep producing, and continuously adapt their strategies to the math directly in front of them.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. Is the Dalio debt reset already here? Are we currently living right in the middle of Phase 6? Or will technological innovation pull off an absolute miracle at the final hour? It's up to you to run the numbers for yourself, adapt your strategy, and honestly, never assume tomorrow will look exactly like today. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.